I'm trying to learn though, but you know, it's like learning a foreign language. I think it's good for your brain.
Yeah, because our brains, they are like so, yeah, see, that didn't do it. Like, they said plastic.
Yeah.
But
But you can build them just like muscle,
yeah.
which they always thought was not
Possible, yeah. They thought once you reach adulthood, it was just downhill, but it's not, and I can appreciate that. Hey everybody, I'm Serena. Welcome back to Life Between Weights, and I'm sitting here with Kathy this morning, and we're going to talk about postpartum depression. So can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Kathy Sutherland, and I am the Woman, Wife, Mom Coach on Facebook. And what I do as part of my coaching is I coach women through transitions. Moving, so I was a former expat, motherhood, and menopause only because it's with an M, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I'm in peri, so I'm getting there. But anyway, today we're going to talk about the postpartum depression part of my experience and how what's on my heart is just I want to help people through this. It's an awful thing to go through. I feel like I'm a really strong woman. I've always been up by the bootstraps and all this kind of thing. Without this experience, this personal experience of mine with postpartum depression, I thought depression was just you weren't working hard enough to make yourself happy.
Yes.
I thought it was read a self-help book, go running. I had no idea and no empathy for how just out of control it is. And that often, at least for me too, and a lot of the women that I've spoken to, it's not circumstantial.
No.
Everything's fine. Your life is fine. You got what you wanted. You wanted to have this baby.
Yes.
It's not just the overwhelming, oh my gosh, I just had a baby and it's a little different than I thought. They're handing you this tiny little helpless blob that's terrifying. That's motherhood. Postpartum depression is much darker, and it can present initially too as anger, as anxiety. There's a big push right now to rename it from postpartum depression to like maternal mood disorders and anxiety disorders, things like that.
Well, that's more encompassing, so that would be good, because I feel like more people would be able to relate and then therefore seek help.
I think that's one of the big reasons why they're pushing that, because people think depression.
That's not me.
Yeah, and how can I be depressed? Because everyone talks about depression like, well, if someone's spouse dies, yes, that's depression, but that's normal. I mean, something horrific just happened,
Yeah.
and that's something you can get through with talk therapy. I'm not saying it's something you can get through. That's never happened to me. I can't even imagine. But what I'm saying is that's circumstantial.
Right.
Postpartum depression isn't necessarily, but people get confused because having a child in and of itself, especially first-time moms, it's a huge, unexpected, very surprising. I don't care how many books you're reading, how much you thought you were going to rock the momhood thing.
Yeah.
It'll freak anyone out. But again, that's not postpartum depression. That's just, wow, this is huge.
This is a new thing, new thing I didn't know anything about.
So basically, I just try to help people find help, because my biggest shock for me, I'm an attorney, and just before I had children, I had been working as an attorney for years, and I was a professional woman. I was a strong alpha female, and this just was very, very, just knocked me over. And when I went to go for help, at the time, my current sort of besties were an OBGYN nurse and a psychotherapist.
So it's like a dream
And
team.
even with that, I had such a hard time finding real help.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine how hard it is for everyone, But this was 10 years ago, but it's still not that easy, because I just had a friend who had a child 2 years ago, and it happened to her. And I always make a point, anyone who has a baby, I call them after all the hoo-ha dies down and say, how are you? Is everything okay? And she was one of those who said, gosh, you were the first one that really and so then she just opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped her get help. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I know where to go for the help.
Yeah.
And she's even on the East Coast the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. In California. And, we found help for her. She found help, and she's better. And that was one thing, too, that I remember my girlfriend always telling me, you'll get better. Just staring me in the eyes like, you will get better. Because I was just like...
Just kind of like willing it
I
to
am
happen.
like,
Yeah.
this is... Yeah, it's really... It's incredibly difficult.
And I just want to kind of put out there just for everybody who's watching that a lot of times depression will, and not even just postpartum depression, presents a lot as like anxiety. Mm-hmm. So when I have really high anxiety, social anxiety, who would have thought, This is my therapy though.
Yeah.
Pushing myself, that's my therapy. But anyway, until somebody realizes how you're feeling, I would always get a lot of make the phone calls. I don't want to get on the phone. And then my husband would just make the phone call. I don't want to make whoever it was, or go for the drive or whatever. Being pressed and pushed to do something, I don't feel like is the right way to go about encouraging someone to maybe even seek help or help themselves rather. But having those high levels of anxiety make it hard to recognize the depression. Yeah.
Well, and when I help people, I try to listen and I try to tell them who to go to. I mean, ultimately you do have to help yourself.
Yes.
Nobody can force you. But I think my big thing is I want to get it out there that it happens, and you don't have to own it as, well, you're defective.
Yeah.
Because this happened. No, it happens to a lot of people. We were talking before about like percentages, and I think, off camera, but something like 80% of women, and that's what they can get people to talk about, in these surveys. 80% of women respond to childbirth with some kind of mood disorder or anxiety.
And it's not easy for women to talk about. I became a mother when I was 20 years old, and I wouldn't say that I had postpartum depression. Maybe just a lot of anxiety, maybe because it was my first baby. But also I do remember hearing friends who were having babies saying things like, well, I don't know why I'm not happy. I have a baby. I love this baby, but I'm just not happy. Yeah. So maybe being able to recognize and like...
Well, and also they talk about, it has to be a man that invented this term, but the baby blues, because it makes it sound so sweet and cute.
Yeah.
When it's awful.
Yeah.
But the baby blues, if you can kind of hold your breath through the first 2-3 months, once you're actually getting some decent sleep, stuff like that, the baby blues are just all the hormone, everyone, no one escapes this with childbirth, all the hormones, everything, the changes, just the lack of sleep. But the baby blues last a few months. So if those start to go away, then okay, then you're good. Postpartum depression actually even typically kicks in later, even about it. I think on average they say 6 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it can be anywhere from 2 to 4. But a lot of people it hits a lot later. And so people are really, it's so past the time of the birth too. No one's around anymore, all the woohoo is all gone and everything. Yeah. So it also further isolates people. And the isolation is the worst enemy of a new mother. Absolutely. You've got to get a tribe.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I grew up in a very large family. So I don't know isolation. And I was never ever alone. I mean, as a very large, very Italian family, we were always together at some point, but I couldn't imagine. I mean, even now, like while my husband's at work and my kids are at school, and I'm home, and I work from home, and so it's kind of like, and now it's raining and it's dark outside, and I'm looking around, it's like, what is this? I don't even know.
Yeah, my big thing was I was actually one of the first ones of my friends to have a baby and then stay home, even to have a baby. A lot of them haven't even had a baby yet. But so I had a baby, and we moved away from people, so I had nobody around, and I stopped working, and it was crazy isolating. And then we moved again. We moved back down to Los Angeles, where my family and everybody is from. When my first child was like 10 months old. And that was huge. I had more anxiety with him. I mean, looking back, that wasn't postpartum depression. The postpartum depression came with my youngest, who's 10 years old now. But the first one, I definitely had anxiety. I mean, I remember when he was 3 months old, I didn't want to leave the house. My husband has a picture of me. He's in the Bjorn. And I'm outside the door, and I'm like, and I went outside, and I go, no. And I just went back in again. I didn't want him to catch a cold.
Yeah.
That's not normal. And I didn't know that at that time. You know, he didn't know that at that time. We didn't know anything. It was our first kid.
Yeah.
One of the neighbors who was older, she had like 4 kids, said, your wife's going to get postpartum depression. I'm like, I'm not depressed. Happy as a clam. You know, no, I wasn't depressed. I was just hugely anxiety ridden. You know, I thought my baby was so cute someone would steal it. I thought he would get sick and die. I thought, you know, I remember when we got home from the hospital with my first, and this was, you know, 2003. We didn't have all the stuff they have now. My husband spent a fortune installing cameras, temperature gauge, everything, so that the baby could be in his room in the crib and I could be in bed trying to get some sleep. But know that, you know, no SIDS. He was breathing. Room temperature was fine. I could look at him. It was ridiculous. So I had a lot of anxiety with the first one.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that was a precursor that could have warned me with the second or not. That's another thing they talk about, like, well, who gets it? What causes it?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. They make educated guesses, but there's no real clinical proof of anything. Sometimes they say, like, really type A's women, which is funny because most of my friends are type A, like, you know, alpha females, and the people that I'm kind of drawn to, and a lot of them had problems with childbirth. I don't know if they're just bolder, and so it's easier for them to share, or if that really is, you know. But in my experience, most people I've met were really, like, driven, you know, people you would not think would get down on, have anything get them down, like depression.
Yeah.
Those were the ones that got it the worst, you know. So I don't know what causes it. I don't think anyone knows. From my experience and talking to, like, the doctors and things that I've dealt with, it's super random. I have a friend, actually, that she has 3 kids. First kid, fine. She doesn't even remember feeling a lot of, you know, I think they lived in Hong Kong at the time, so she had a lot of help.
Yeah.
But she doesn't remember feeling anything really hard. The second one, they were in Australia, and she got postpartum depression. Really bad. Like, bad, to the point where when she had her 3rd child, it was an accident kid, and she was petrified that it was going to happen again. And it didn't. Not at all. And she was still in Australia. They hadn't moved. So there's no rhyme or reason. I think the only thing you can do is be aware, so that if it does happen to you, you can recognize it and you can get help.
Well,
the sooner the better.
Yeah. Well, how would you say that, like, some of the symptoms present, maybe some signs, maybe things? Is it something that maybe you don't recognize it internally, so maybe somebody says something, you know, externally?
I think probably, in my experience, your partner would know. Your partner would be like, this is not you. You know? I was lucky enough, even my psychiatrist said, you're really lucky, and that you can sort of identify that these thoughts are not okay.
Yeah.
But what she had said was, because I said, you know, but what happens Like if I didn't, she kind of talked me into the drugs because I did take drugs for it back then. But she said, she's like, it's like a switch flips. And I remember that from like having like, this was my second child. So the new baby, okay, I got this, I know this, none of that bothered me. But then it was all of a sudden, it was just like flat. For me, everyone, it always presents different for everyone.
Right.
For me, it was just flat. It was like, it wasn't so much depressed, like sad. It wasn't weepiness. It wasn't anger. It was just like,
just nothing.
I'm done with this. I don't want any of this. It was awful. And then, because I knew, this is my family. Like, you know, I knew objectively, I love my husband. I love my, then 5-year-old. Why am I having these awful thoughts, you know? And I remember, actually, this is really a dark, dark day. I was at my best friend's house. We were having a little play date. We were all like, we had been working professionally before kids, and then we were able to stay home and chose that and wanted to stay home. So I'm over at her house, you know, we're having a play date. She's cutting grapes. And I remember just, you know, the kids are playing, and the baby was in the car seat thing. And, or a bouncy seat or whatever those things are. It's been a while since baby, 10 years. He was in a bouncy seat. So we're talking, she's cutting grapes, and I remember just looking at the knife thinking like, I could get a knife really sharp like that. Let's see. We could go home after this play date. I could put Matt down for a nap and the baby down for a nap, get in the shower with the knife, call my husband, tell him to get home right away. Then it would be really clean. I'll let you fill in the rest. It was sick. And so, and I was with my friend, and I said, and it was their thoughts. I wasn't going to act on it. They were thoughts. And they were thoughts like this all the time, you know? And so I asked her, I said, what is the difference between, I mean, I'm having these thoughts. I know they're bad, but how scary is that to you? And I'm asking you as my friend, you know, not as a mandated reporter. And what, you know, what should I do? Like, she knew I was struggling, but I did not want to take medicine. Medicine freaked me out, you know. I take vitamins. I'm even careful about herbs, you know. I don't like medicine. So that was a real tough thing for me. But anyway, so she says to me, you don't know. She's like, first, we talked about it. First, the switch flips where you're not you, and you know you're not feeling normal. She said, then another switch will flip, and you'll be the lady from Texas who drowned all her kids and thought it was okay. And so it was about that time that I actually had myself admitted into a hospital so that I could get the drugs, you know, just like make sure that I was taken care of. Because I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that to my family. Well, and it was a big deal. And it was really hard for me to admit
that was going through your head.
It was hard for me to admit that had happened to me. I was a strong, kick-ass woman that could do anything.
But it doesn't make you
now I'm a horrible mom. I was mentally unstable. I mean, like, you just check off the fingers. It was awful. But as a result, I have incredible empathy now for any mental illness, and especially the one I understand the most, the PPD. And all I want to do is help anyone that has suffered through this.
Right.
Which is why I do the coaching thing.
Yeah, and that's amazing. Because I feel like it's not an easy thing to admit and bring to somebody those kinds of thoughts. Because it does, even to know it in your head that it's an inappropriate thought, and maybe I know I don't really feel this way, so why am I thinking this? But then to in turn even say it out loud, I'm sure, is exponentially more difficult.
And to put it in writing so that it's there for eternity on your health insurance records. You know, a lot of people are afraid of that. You know, especially in the DC area, we have a lot of people who have security clearances.
For all the government jobs and all that,
Yeah, and I've talked to people about that, and want you to know, since I even had this happen, I've had a top secret SCI clearance when we were an expat and all that kind of stuff. So it does not affect things like that.
Right. That's good to know.
Yeah. So don't be freaked out about that. You need to get help.
Yes.
There's just so much, it's basically the cure for this is awareness. The cure for this is for people to know you will get better. This is treatable. It's completely treatable.
Right. But you not just, if you feel this way and sit and do nothing, that won't get you better.
No.
Doing
in fact,
something
that's
about
when,
it.
like what my friend said, that's when the switch will keep flipping. And it's heartbreaking for me to think about that woman in Texas.
Yeah.
She had so many kids, and she had documented postpartum depression with all of them, and it just kept getting worse. I can't even imagine.
And now we were talking off camera about how you had said that if you have it once and it clears up, just to keep that awareness that it had happened before, because the chances of it happening again.
Yeah, that was another, and I will admit, hard pill to swallow, because my husband and we were posted abroad, and so I saw an embassy doctor. It was a psychiatrist, and just to get like an adjustment on my medicine and stuff, I didn't want to play with it too much while we were abroad, because basically we went abroad. I thought I was going to ruin his career, because we went abroad. We went to language school. I was 3 months into treatment, in DC. And then we moved to Asia when my son was 10 months old. Huge transition. But it was all fine because I got treatment. But anyway, this doctor told me something that I didn't like hearing. I still don't like it, but it's a fact. So you need to be aware of it. Everyone needs to be aware of it. To put it in layman's terms, again, not a professional, I am just speaking my experience. But he said there's no difference between postpartum depression or just major depressive disorder that a man or woman might get without the baby. It's a brain dysfunction. It's like diabetes. It's something that your body just is not working correctly.
Right.
So what he said to me in his experience, and people don't still completely understand. The brain is still very much unsolved puzzle. But he was saying in his experience, and then had at least 30 years under his belt as a psychiatrist. He said in his experience, once you have what they call basically, say clinical depression, but it's like major depressive disorder, basically, is what they call any of it. You are always at risk for it to happen again. So that even if you successfully go off medication or you're successful with some of the other treatments, it may come back. So always be on the lookout.
Yeah.
So my whole life, I will always be on the lookout. But I'd also like to talk about a new treatment that's drug-free. Had this been available at the time, who knows if I would have found it. Like I said, it was so hard to find help. So I'd like to speak to just local population, Nova, for where to get help.
Right. I would love, anybody who's watching or listening, if you know somebody who has helped you or somebody that you know, leave their names or websites or, I don't know, Instagram contact information, whatever they may have in the comments, so that we can better connect these people to the community in order to help more women.
Yeah, and on my Facebook coach page, it's I have a ton of resources that I'm always putting on there.
Yeah, and I'll link it down below for you.
The Woman, Wife, Mom Coach, no spaces at Facebook. But the doctors that I saw locally, because we were here when it happened actually 10 years ago, her name is Dr. Barbara Byers, and she is a psychiatrist. She had just moved down from New York down to here when this happened to me. Anyway, she's at 5454 Wisconsin Avenue, Suite 1275 in Chevy Chase. But she's expensive and she doesn't take insurance. That's another awful part
that
of this.
Really
and all,
pushes my buttons
and
about
all
some
mental
people.
illness. All mental illness. In fact, the Virginia governor or whatever just signed something into, who knows if it's got teeth or if it'll work, but he just signed something into law that for mental health issues that were like mandated that you get help same day, but who knows how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, I've been having a hard time getting an appointment with a psychiatrist for my 13-year-old who we think might be on the autism spectrum. But people who have appointments available now don't take insurance, and the ones that do are booked almost a year out.
Yeah.
So I can't get help for my 13-year-old right now.
Yeah, and they bill it like $250 and up an hour.
Yeah.
But anyway, if so Dr. Byers is expensive, but Dr. Barbara Byers, and she basically, what I liked about her, she specializes in nothing but reproductive psychiatry. So anything having to do with, because even fertility treatments, that is actually one of the things, like I said, it's guesswork as to what will cause it and what won't for PPD. But fertility treatments and or difficult pregnancies, things like that, can lead to that. Can lead to postpartum depression, which is what PPD means. And talk therapy can help some, but for the most part, in my experience, people having babies wanted to have a baby. That's it's postpartum depression isn't typically circumstantial. That initial baby blues in the first 3 months because of, oh my gosh, I just had a baby. This is not like the movies. That's a different thing.
It's covered in slime. It didn't come out clean.
It looks like it's gonna die. I just want to keep staring at it, but I need to sleep. I mean it's motherhood's didn't want to say horrific. Motherhood's horrific. Motherhood's amazing.
Yes.
But having a baby's a big deal. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and I've done some hard things. So anyway, totally rewarding. I don't want to scare all you never had kids people to just be like, hang up your ovaries. I don't mean that. But it's most things are as rewarding as they are difficult. And having kids is crazy rewarding and crazy difficult.
I agree 100% with that statement.
Yeah. So anyway, the other things, cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, personally, I think this works more for baby blues. And it's not as hard to find a cognitive behavioral specialist because baby blues too, it's a little bit circumstantial because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep. I haven't slept. Not sleeping is that's a military torture. It's a big deal.
It's detrimental to your health.
Yeah.
All aspects of your health.
Talk therapy can help through what causes baby blues type of thing, I would say. But in cognitive behavioral therapy, for people who don't want to a lot of people just don't want to be like, what do I just tell them I'm sad? They don't like the thought of a therapist. Yeah. Cognitive behavioral therapy is different. It's more disciplined, especially if you're a type A and you want to do it yourself and take the bull by the horns. Cognitive behavioral therapy is basically controlling your thoughts and your mind. When a thing comes up oh my gosh, germs, my baby's gonna die. You go, no, baby's not gonna die. It basically teaches you controlling your thoughts and stopping a thought and replacing it with a new thought. You can Google it, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's been around a long time. It's fairly easy to find an insurance covered therapist. You don't need to be a psychiatrist, and cognitive behavioral therapy will help a lot of new moms just to get their anxiety and their, so much about being a new mom is, your hair is just in the air and you're screaming inside your head.
Oh yeah.
So cognitive behavioral therapy can help with that.
There's a lot of really silly things that happen when you're a new mom that can make you freak out. So a quick funny story about one time that I had just the biggest panic attack with my firstborn was born in Tucson, Arizona. Okay. It's very hot there in the summertime. So she's She's like newborn. I'm breastfeeding. We're laying in bed, and I'm laying like this, you know, while I'm like reading a book, and she's nursing and everything. And we get up and
it's like a magazine cover.
Yeah, exactly. And a cactus in the background.
What it's supposed to be like.
Yeah, exactly. So I get up. I'm carrying her around and everything, and I'm like, she smells bad, but not like she didn't poop her diaper, she didn't spit up, she didn't smell like, it was just something very weird, something I had never recalled smelling before, and I was like, something terrible is happening. And turns out it took me a few hours to remember that when we lay down on the bed, she was laying here in my armpit in hot Arizona, so she smelled like my body odor. And I know, totally embarrassing, but I mean, I was like, oh my god, my kid, she's dying, she's rotting. No, I was the one who was rotting. But yeah, it was panic for sure.
Because everything's new.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is more scary than new? No matter the subject.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
The unknown is
once
just...
and once it's old hat, it's like, that's
why...
so funny. That's how you can, you know, moms that have older kids, we can laugh at you younger moms. Ha.
And that's why people say, you know, going from the first to your second is going to be the hardest transition of your life. Going from your second to your third, fourth, fifth, it only gets easier after that. First of all, the first one's big enough to take care of the rest of them. And then...
I always heard like the first, crazy hard. Second, crazy hard. The third blows the roof off. And then with the fourth, it gets easier.
See,
But I think it's only because you've had one for so long at that point. Our minds protect us, and we just don't care about the things we used to care about.
Well, my first was a very easy baby. Like, she didn't cry a lot. She wasn't colicky. She's just very happy baby. And the kind of baby that made me think, what is everybody complaining about? Then I had my son.
I had the first baby, too. I was totally neurotic, but he was the easiest baby. He slept through the night at, like, I don't know, 4 days. Ridiculous.
Mine too. Yeah. And so I believe that that's by God's design. That the second baby wants to make you, you know, crazy.
Wants to get you away from the first one, maybe. Give you more attention.
Well, I feel like
it senses the first one's existence.
You know, and I think it's the first one is supposed to make you want to have more babies. The second one is supposed to stop you right there. That's it. 2 babies. After my son, I was like, that's it. I'm never having another baby again. This is terrible. He was a horrible baby. And just very colicky. We actually eventually found out that it was, because he wouldn't nurse.
Yeah.
It was the formula. He was lactose intolerant, was giving him stomach issues and everything. Yeah. So that's why he was not a very good baby. But again, made me want to rip my hair out. But then when my daughter was 3, sat on Santa's lap, asked him for a baby sister. Santa said, you have to talk to your parents about this. This isn't what Santa does. And 2 weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant. Santa. But she was also, she was not a very easy baby, but she's the easiest now. She's 8 now, and she's the easiest of the 3 of them now.
Because she knew she had no chance. She better just be good, or you'd be leaving her behind.
She's very, she's very strong-willed, very independent, good at everything she touches is gold.
My second one is super independent, but I think it's because he wants to be as old as his brother, you know.
Yeah.
It's a big difference, 5-year difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's between kids. That's another thing nobody ever talks about. Between my 2 children, I lost 6.
Oh, wow.
And 1 was late term, out to here, And that's another one of my, just the healthcare industry is just horrific. Again, being an intelligent, educated, you know, everybody I was friends with because of my graduate school and everything was like either a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. Still got just crap care, you know.
Yeah.
When I had that miscarriage, it was a late miscarriage, and I was devastated. To say the least, obviously. I hadn't found out the sex yet. We didn't have any testing. We were just going to see what it was. Because my husband had been away for a month or something for some training for work. So I waited for him to get back. So I was like 19 weeks at that point. And we went in and the baby was dead. And it was devastating. And, you know, you don't even know, like, we had already fallen in love with it.
Yeah.
That baby already was part of our family, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then because of insurance, and I wasn't savvy or just together enough because I was emotionally broken at the time, but the doctor said, I had had a prior C-section, right, with my first. And the doctor said, well, you can't, with a deceased baby in utero, you can't do a VBAC, not even close, because the amount of contractions it would take to get it out would rupture you and you'd die. Like no guesswork on that. So you can't do that. And I didn't think to ask, well, then C-section me.
Yeah.
You know, let me have closure. Let me hold my baby. He said, so I think the best route for you would be, you know, it's basically we'll take it out. It's essentially an late term abortion is what they call it. Only the baby was dead, right? Well, at that time, this was 2005, maybe. Yeah, 2005. At that time, that was illegal. There was nowhere to go to get it. He had to find someone who was willing to do it. So it took like 3 weeks. So I'm gonna have to go to the store. I'm having to deal with my 3-year-old, and my stomach is slowly deflating because you know how you pop out huge the second time.
Yeah. And
people were like, "Oh, what are you having?" And I'm like, ah! You know, just a psychotic mother with a 3-year-old. Oh, that's sad, you know, because it was horrific. And then I got to wait 6 hours sitting in an abortion clinic waiting for my turn. And then what they did was they just put seaweed sticks in your uterus to pry it open over 3 days while you dope you up on pain meds and send you home. And then you come back and they go in and took it out. By that time, there was no testing because when they did the ultrasound, they couldn't see the sex. By that time, they said that the genetic test wouldn't show anything. We couldn't even know what sex it was because it had been dead for long enough, which I don't even understand that. In retrospect, I'm like, I've gotten an infection or I don't know. Whatever it was, we couldn't know anything about the baby either, or even why it died. So, but anyway, they took it out that way. And then didn't tell me anything about having a basically worthless cervix because of that procedure. So then I got to lose more. You know, it's just awful. And then with my last and where I got the postpartum depression, I was on bed rest, hospital bed rest for almost 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just to hold him in. I was cerclaged and everything, but I was funneling. And when they cerclaged me, they actually nicked my waters and then put me what they call Trendelberg, and it healed itself, thank God. Otherwise, you know, that would have been that. But yeah, the medical, you need to be your own advocate because medicine is not nice to women, as far as I'm concerned, especially not reproductive health. So the more I think we as women share our stories, the more we can watch out for each other. The more the next person doesn't have to go through the same thing that you went through. So share.
Just rallying behind each other.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember when we were talking about isolation. When I moved back down to LA, I joined, I joined this MOPS group. And it's a Christian-based group that you don't have to, there were Jewish people in there, it's just young moms. So there's like tables of 6, and this particular group was fantastic. It was like, and I lived in Valencia, California, which is like stay-at-home mom central.
Yeah.
So it was like 150 women in this group, right? Every Tuesday, and they had childcare, and all this stuff, and it was like a time to fill your cup kind of thing. And when I had the miscarriage, that was the first one, the late one, I never knew anyone had a miscarriage. I thought we were all just fertile, crazy, 6 kids, everything. I had that miscarriage, and then thank goodness, I mean, so many women came out and supported me and helped me through that. But at the same time, I was shocked
To see,
you know, like
the volume.
Yeah, in fact, a very good friend and has always been so instrumental in like just being a light for me. Her name is Heather. She has like 5 kids or something. Mm-hmm. Well, she lost like 50.
Oh no.
You know, just nobody talks about it. So my point being, share. I mean, it doesn't have to be like the Jerry Springer show. Am I dating myself? I don't know if anyone even knows what that is, but that was like the first reality.
I like Jerry Springer.
Yeah, that was the first reality show ever. You don't have to do that. You can just share privately with your friends or whatever. If you don't want to, I mean, I'm shouting, I don't care. I just, I don't have that, not filter, but I don't mind sharing. I know a lot of people it makes you really uncomfortable, and that's totally fine. But share somehow. Do what you can to share. Because awareness is the only tool we have.
Yep.
You know?
And so even if you have somebody, if it's something that you've gone through, and you have that friend, like Cathy said, just reach out, ask your friends if they're okay.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're aware of how you felt, then you can help other people bring that awareness to themselves.
And just let them talk. That's the hardest thing to do for anybody.
Yes.
Is to just hold space for someone. Mm-hmm. That is the hardest thing, because if you just let them talk, they'll talk. Mm-hmm. They want to be heard. But if you're giving them advice...
Have you seen the YouTube video? I don't know, and if I can find it, I'll link it down below, about It's Not About the Nail. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, the camera is on the man, and the woman is sitting over here, but you can see him, and she's talking, and he keeps trying to interrupt her and say, well, have you tried this, or have you tried that? And she keeps going, it's not about the nail. And then he would stop talking, and then she'd be like, yeah, but my head, it just hurts all the time. So then it pans on her, and she's got this, like, nail sticking out of her forehead, and he's trying to tell her to take the nail out. But really all she wanted to do is talk about what it is that's bothering her. So you don't have to remove anybody else's nail.
Yeah. And
just
there's a great, I'm like total lover of quotes. There's a great quote, I don't know who said it, but it's something like, unsolicited advice is just criticism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know? And if someone isn't saying specifically, like, do you think I'm a good mother in that I reward my child? I mean, it's got to be pretty specific request, you know? Not just like, am I a good mother? Well, of course you are.
Uh-huh. We're all good mothers in our own right.
Exactly. I mean... So advice, just be very sparing with advice for new parents, for sure. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do.
As long as the diaper is clean and the kid is happy, that's really all that. They could be filthy. Kids are dirty.
It actually builds their immune system.
It does. My kids were always filthy. They all had...
It's not for everybody.
We played outside a lot. They ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly that would go from ear to ear. And of course you clean them, but my son, who is 10 years old, who can still have like a milk mustache up his nose, every time he eats, doesn't matter what it is he's eating, is just all over. Some kids are just like that.
Yeah. My
oldest never liked to get her hands dirty. She was the neatest one. But my other two, they didn't give a shit. They were just filthy all the time. As long as they're happy, you know, and not mistreated, then just kind of mind your business. Just
we're all good moms. We all do the best we can be. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all do the best we can. I mean, obviously, we all watch the news. There are some moms that need help and need to learn some new skills. But for the most part, I think people were talking about. Let me see if I covered. I put some notes on it, things that were really important to me to get across, and I just want to make sure we got. Oh, the major treatment that I am here to talk about is transcranial magnetic stimulation. It's called TMS. It's super new, but it's amazing, and it's covered by insurance, which it's not covered 100%. I mean, every appointment is like a copay, and this treatment is 5 days a week for like 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So that's a cost. But it works so well. And also, if you're on Facebook, just like search TMS, and you'll start getting all these, because people are doing medical trials all over the place. So if you actively have depression right now, you can go into one of these medical trials. And then not only can you get this FDA approved treatment for free, they'll even pay you a little bit. So anyway, where I went, because I have been on what my doctor, Dr. Byers, used to call supplements, which is basically Zoloft. She opined that, serotonin, SSRIs, serotonin-based specifically like Zoloft, were the best at treating postpartum depression, maternal disorders of depression. And also Wellbutrin, which is, they also use that for like not smoking and stuff. Sometimes depression can present as anger, and Wellbutrin can help with that. I think that has to do with something like dopamine or something like that. But anyway, the medicines are not without their side effects.
Right.
I mean, weight gain, sexual dysfunction, like just complete inability to have an orgasm,
Well,
which sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have side effects. I mean, I'm not a fan of taking any medicine that you don't have to take. And
dependency on certain the SSRIs.
You can't get dependent.
There's one,
But you have to. But you can't just stop taking them. It's a horrific withdrawal period.
Okay, then that's.
But it's not the dependence like if you're talking about like heroin or something.
Yeah,
like that. It's not that type of dependence. But you have to titrate off them, which means come off them really slowly, or you'll go right back to being depressed.
Oh, yeah, then that's what I meant.
Yeah, but they're not addictive.
Right, but just having to, like you said, just be very, very intentional, very slow, very.
Yeah, but you can actually have this treatment while you're on medicine. So, and then titrate down, after that. It's also overseen by a doctor. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Grammer. And I'm going to need to read about it because I can't just put this off the top of my head. He's the chief medical officer for one of the TMS places called Greenbrook TMS. They've got offices in Ashburn, Reston, Tysons, all over the place. He's a decorated colonel, or was, in the U.S. Army. He's retired now and did this. But even when he was in the Army, he did the FDA trials for TMS. He did it on combat vets for PTSD.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible.
So what is it?
It is, it's kind of funny. I mean, you feel sort of idiotic because you're sitting in like a dental chair, and they put this little cone on your head. It's not a cone, but it's like a cap. And it's just kind of tapping your head, but he's using magnets basically to fix the synapse.
That's amazing.
Disruptions that cause depression and anxiety and all that, basically rebuilding your synapses kind of thing is, in a layman's term, I'm explaining this way. You can go see him and just get a consult. He's also running trials. So if you're actively depressed and can get into one of his trials, I think they pay like $500.
Wow.
And the treatment's free. But the trial, I think, is 6 days a week. I don't know why the difference, but you could ask him. But his name is Dr. Jeffrey Grammer, and he's the chief medical officer for Greenbrook TMS. It's a I don't know if it's a toll-free number. 855 is toll-free too?
I think so.
I think so. But anyway, because they're actually branching out through the East Coast too. I think they're opening up something in Connecticut, which I have a friend in Easton, and I'm like, she's been suffering.
I have a friend in Easton.
Do you?
Yes, I do. Funny.
Lisa Keene?
No. I can't. Her last name is hard to pronounce, so I'm gonna send it to you.
But anyway, they're opening one up there, and it's all over the place. FDA approved, nothing, no bad side effects, amazing. So anyway, the number is 855-940-4867.
I'll put that in the comments in the box.
Okay, yeah, I'll
link
give it
all
to
that
you.
information too.
So it's drug-free, and it's, it's like 6 weeks. And I just finished my course in January. And what was kind of funny and interesting is, because sometimes too, when I was trying to titrate off the medicine before, I tried to come down off of it just on my own really slowly before. And I get to a point where I just got really angry. Like my husband would call it scorched earth. Like just really touchy.
Yes, how serious.
And I wouldn't even see it, It was, my husband's always been the one to say, "Hun, something's going on," or Yeah. And it becomes a joke, almost like, "Are you on your period?" For us, it's like, did you miss a dose? It's like, don't even go there unless,
It's a throat punch.
Yeah, exactly. So he was just like, you're really angry again. And I'm like, I kind of notice I am. And not just with like you and around the house and the kids, kind of like even in public. Like I almost like, at the grocery store, like to some lady. So I told him, I'm like, okay, my depression, like, because at the time, like I had tried to go off, I went down to like half a dose, I think. And then I started the therapy. Because I didn't want to be like full, not feeling good, but didn't want to risk anything either. So I wasn't feeling great, but I wasn't like major disorder depression when I started it. Now I have 0 of those feelings.
Wow. 0
of that, like I don't feel any, I just feel fantastic. And I'm only on, to give you a dose, I think my full dose I was on when I was initially treated was 400 milligrams of Zoloft.
Wow.
And 300 milligrams of Wellbutrin.
Wow.
That's a truckload. And that's what I needed. But I was, had gone down to half of that before. But anytime I tried to titrate down lower than that, I would get like kind of angry and whatever. So after I went through this first round, I'm like, I feel really good, but I'm feeling kind of angry. And he goes, I love this guy. It's like, oh, you don't have to own that. I've seen it in the combat vets, whatever. He's like, we're going to tap the other side because it does something with dopamine or whatever. And I'm like, that's crazy,
That's amazing.
So now I've done like a month of that. And so all that's gone.
And you feel good.
Yeah. So
That's
now
amazing.
it's like, and so, like I said, for before, it's not permanent for some people. You have to go back in and get adjusted and get your little taps in or whatever.
I would imagine that it's kind of like when people go to see a chiropractor.
Exactly.
You go all the time. I mean, not all the time, but your body gets out of alignment and you go back.
Exactly. So, and some people don't ever need to go. I'm hoping I'm one of those. Like when I had laser hair removal, like they said, 3 to 5 sessions. Yeah, 2 sessions. I'm like bald as one of those ugly cats for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
Hoping TMS is the same. But it's interesting that he like did the depression thing and he goes, oh, feeling a little punchy. Okay, we're gonna do the other side. Like it's crazy. It's crazy that how this works. And it's just magnets affecting, curing basically your synapse disorders.
Can you help me with my math skills?
I don't know. I don't know if I feel smarter. I think I just feel less angry and super happy.
And that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. And then because, like we were saying, if there's any way that we can get now there's medical necessities for taking pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I don't want to
not deny that at all. But with this, it could be so promising.
Yeah, and actually, Dr. Grammer, this can actually work faster than medicine if you can get in and do it right away. And in fact, one of the days I was there, I walked by and there was a woman there with a baby going in to get the treatment. And I didn't want to invade her space or like make her feel uncomfortable. All I wanted to do was like, you're going to be fine. Like just even if this does something will work. I mean, it's treatable. It's like not getting medicine or not getting help for PPD is like a diabetic saying like,
I don't want to take my insulin or.
Yeah. well, even diabetes, because most people, you know, if you're type 1, which you have to have it, that's you're a child. Type 2, a lot of that stuff can be health based and weight based, so you can lose weight to get rid of, you know, stuff like that. But anyway, I think a good, like cold sores, you know, like it's kind of a herpes simplex. It's not, you know, it's not bad, weird, icky, or everyone's like embarrassed of. But just getting a cold sore, once you have those, it's always in your system. Right. Once you have major mood disorder, depression, whatever, it's always in your system. You're always, you know, vulnerable for it to come back. Which, don't be afraid of it. I mean, it's treatable. Yeah. And then just having that awareness and then bringing it to the necessary professionals. Yeah. I think the thing that breaks my heart the most is that, well, I guess it's like any medical too. Like people, you know, regular middle class insured people can go bankrupt because of cancer, because of medicine, and because of how stupid our medical system is. But mental health, I mean, it's so urgent. So hopefully this new law the governor just signed last week, I'll text you a little thing about it if you want to post on there too. It's supposed to give you same-day care for mental health illnesses. Yeah. Well, that would be a step in the right direction, that's for sure. Yeah, because they're off. I mean, mental health illnesses are urgent. Yeah. And it's in everyone's best interest, because when people go, you know, shooting up schools and things like that, it's almost always a mental health issue. And we all care about being safe. So even if you don't care about other people and their mental health, care about yourself enough to like push mental health. Mental health is huge. Because I think about like people that are not mentally healthy getting even like behind the wheel of a car. Then now that's not a bad intention, like somebody with you know, a loaded weapon. Yeah. But I have a hair in my mouth that is bothering me. Or, you know, flying under the radar and being a caretaker for one of our kids. And, you know, not having any... Get the hair out of your mouth and make me gag. I'm like, ah. Sorry, I got it. But, I'm sorry. But, you know, one of those people could be caring for one of our kids and then one day just go off the rails. It's just mental health... And it's awful. You know, there are other quotes about that too. Mental health is the worst, most horrific, most heartbreaking disease there is. Yes, I agree with that 100%. You know, absolutely. So let me look through other stuff, and if you can think of things. Yeah, I would like to know, what is one thing that you do for yourself? What is Cathy time consist of? How do you fill your cup? Okay, my cup, and that's one of the things too I love like coaching on too, is you have to carve out time. And I mean, I'm blessed with just an amazing husband. I mean, he's so lucky. And even after our first, he would be, you know, I was home all day and he was working, and he'd be like, okay, it's Saturday. I have the baby. You know, and for a long time I'm like, no, you'll kill the baby. I have to have the baby, you know, the anxiety thing. But he'd be like, I have the baby, you go. Do you come back this afternoon? He would give me like a 6-hour stint. Just do whatever you want. And also the choice to stay home at that point when we were two income family, and then all of a sudden I'd never even held a baby before. I pushed one out, you know, or cut one out. But once I had it, I'm like, I don't want to go back to work. And plus, it was a lot of anxiety stuff too. Yeah. And so I was planning on going back to work, and then I couldn't. I was just like, no one is touching my child but me, you know. So our income was slashed pretty seriously. So I would use that time. I had like $20. I'd go to the dollar store and just get as much retail therapy as possible for $20. And sometimes, you know, you get like the candle holders and come home and then just take a really luxurious bath with candles. Big bags of candy. I love candy. Yeah. And just, you know, do something for yourself. Even if it's just to drive somewhere and sit in your car in silence.
Yeah.
Because silence is really healing. In fact, that was another thing I just posted on my thing, was just like, silence is good. Not only is it good for our kids, make your kids be bored. It's good for them.
Yes.
And total quiet. So quiet like heals our brain.
Mm-hmm.
There's some study, and I
saw that. I think it was the post that you had posted about silence, healing the brain, and it basically does the same thing as when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Your brain, when you go to sleep at night, everything that you've done through the day is kind of solidified in your brain, filed away into, like, you know, the little memory filing drawers. You get all those like little workers down there in there and everything. And same thing with the silence. So when you go and you sit, it's just kind of like your brain is taking that, everything that had happened so far, and saying, okay, this is how we're going to process this is how we're going to process that, and puts it all away. So yeah, it's very healing for you. And one thing that I find, especially with new moms, that is the self-care thing is very difficult for them. So I just want, sitting here with you right now, I want to look at you and tell everybody that self-care is not selfish.
No.
There's zero I mean, unless
it's the airline rule.
Yeah.
You put on your own mask first.
Yes.
You have to. Otherwise, you pass out, and the other person doesn't get a mask either. If you don't self-care, you yell at all your kids. You do, you know, you have to self-care.
When my kids were little, really little, okay, so my youngest is 8, then I have a 10-year-old, and I have a 13-year-old. When the first two went to school and it was just me and the youngest one, that was really nice, because like the bigger two were gone, and it was just like us that were like hanging out. We like watch Dora and all kinds of stuff, go shopping, whatever. So my self-care at that point was, because I was still taking care of 3 kids.
Yeah.
2 cats, a dog, and a husband. All right, that's a lot to take in our whole house. My husband's responsibility was to bring home the bread. My responsibility was everything else. So we would lay on the couch, my daughter and I, she was like 4 at the time, and we would snuggle. So I'd lay down like this, okay, and then she would lay right here, and I would, while she lay right here and watch her. She's like, Mommy, did you see what Dora just did? And that was what, and I felt bad for a long time afterwards, like, oh man, I should have been, I don't know,
Paying attention to Dora,
drawing pictures, teaching her about nature, and all those other, teaching her, you know, her math or whatever, all those other things. But I had to learn eventually that cat nap, that 20-30 minute cat nap in the afternoon, that was my self-care, because otherwise there was no way I was going to make it and be a nice person for the whole day.
Yeah. And it's always, especially, you know, new moms, any kind of moms, it's always, you know, it'd be easy if we were all millionaires and we were all had all the money and help in the world. It'd be a lot easier to do self-care. Sometimes there's no money, there is no time, or whatever. But if you can just get some, you know, if you have a bathtub, you can lock yourself in the bathroom. As long as, if you can get your partner to help with the kids, things like that. And I really think silence is good. Then you can think. Yeah. A lot of times if you're like, okay, my only time out is going to be like mom's night out, where you have to, that could be more exhausting than just taking a bath regularly or something, you know. Don't think your self-care has to look like everybody else's. You just have to find what works.
Absolutely not. When I get in the car, even now, and my kids hate it so much because we play the silent game in the car when we go somewhere. No, where we live, it only takes 10 minutes to get anywhere. So we play the silent game in the car, and I do not turn the radio on.
Yeah, I never.
That's very important.
Isn't it funny?
To me.
I didn't notice this until my 15-year-old started driving, and he's not driving by himself yet, but he's learner's permit and all that. And he noticed, like, Mom, you never have the radio on in the car. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't even listen to music. I don't
listen to music. Oh my God, I just hug you.
I am just in the car, silent. Yeah. It's my little happy silent box. And I didn't even notice I was doing it until he pointed it out, and I realized, because that's the only time I ever get in silence.
And you get ever quiet.
Yeah. So silence is good.
Practice it, and practice being alone. Like I said, because I work alone, and at first it was like really detrimental, and I was like calling my husband at work. I was like, I don't know what to do. Somebody needs to talk to me like right now. And but practice that, because it's a good thing. It feels very nice. But
join, and one thing I want to actually start doing, when I was in the MOPS group, that was amazing for me. Just life-changing. It made motherhood just so great. Greater or whatever. And then my husband and I moved to Vietnam for 6 years for his job. And like most, women, I mean, that's why my coaching is about transitioning, moving, motherhood, menopause. I'm not there yet, thank God. But perimenopause, I've got those stories. Like you can bleed to death and die and no one ever talks about it. I should add that in at the end. But anyway, when I was in Vietnam, I thought, okay, what am I going to do with myself now? I'm not allowed to work. I'm not, So I got certified as a coach and the online and all that stuff. And then I started I just replicated MOPS. And so, I was supposed to do some entertaining just as part of my job as the diplomat wife. And it was great in Vietnam. You had, so many helpers and things like that, and you could hire people and all that stuff. So basically, and I brought china, silver, crystal, everything. So once a week, I invited people with this huge French villa type of thing. I invited all the local moms to my house, and I would usually host about 20 moms. And I had helpers, I couldn't do that here, I would die. But I had helpers, and I would just set just a gorgeous, practically holiday table. And Americans are one of the few that are probably the only worldwide that we're actually allowed to bring some of our stuff. Other countries, like their Department of State people and stuff, they can't even get an envelope. They have to buy off the local furniture and stuff. We had embassy furniture and stuff, but we were able to bring my kitchen stuff, my dishes, things like that. So anyway, I would just do an amazing spread, and the women would come in and be like, oh my gosh, and it was a potluck. And so everyone would bring their favorite kind of brunchy thing. And so people would come over at 9, and I hired extra help, which, you could hire extra help for an example, a full-time maid, 5 days a week is $300 a month.
Wow.
So I would hire a bunch of extra staff, or I'd have people bring their maids. And our whole second floor of our house was a 4-story thing, where they build there. Our whole second floor of our house was baby-proofed, kid room.
That's awesome.
It was ridiculous. And so we had 5 nannies, 6 nannies up there with all the kids. Or if you wanted to bring a baby, you could, whatever. But we would all just, from 9 to 12, eat, bring some champagne, whatever. I would do one week I would do a craft, another week I would do a marriage building thing, another week an icebreaker kind of thing for people. And people made amazing friendships. It's when you're in the trenches, and motherhood is the trenches. Yeah. You build amazing friendships. It's when you go to college and you're oh my gosh, you're wearing jeans, I'm wearing jeans, we're soulmates,
Yeah.
It's anything that's hard, basically, when you're doing it in a group.
Together.
Yeah. And so people made great friendships. And so I did that there. But I'm thinking of, now that, it was quite the transition to move back and come here and everything else. But I'm thinking of actually starting that here, at someplace like Vanish or one of the other things, and just
I think
doing
that'd be really great.
Yeah, a weekly thing where there's so many great venues in Leesburg and things like that where do a weekly breakfast for moms. And we'll do icebreakers, we'll do crafts, we'll have talks about different subjects, things like that. So I'm going to be doing that sometime soon. I'm just trying to figure out what that's going to look like and
if
how it's going to work.
If there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Yeah, because I really think loneliness in motherhood just makes it miserable.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Like you said, build your tribe.
Yeah.
Find your tribe. I think that's awesome. Well, one last question. If you had to summarize your life in one sentence, what would it be? What is your tagline?
Well, my tagline for summarizing my life?
Yeah.
just in my life is an incredible adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like that.
Just incredible experiences.
It sounds like it.
And I've been blessed enough that all of them sort of worked for good and somehow. Yeah, it's been an incredible adventure.
That's awesome. It was so nice and to have you here, and I learned a lot, and I really hope that everybody watching, you know, maybe you thought of somebody while you're watching us here. Maybe somebody popped into your head that could really use your help.
Yeah.
To reach out to them. We'll list the doctors that you have, that you brought with you. We'll list all that down in the description boxes so they can be reached out to as well. And I'll link your Facebook group so that people can get a hold of you too.
And can I add my last bit, the perimenopause thing?
Yes.
This, ridiculous. I had a girlfriend, she's a nurse, and you know how nurses are. Like they could have a pole through their head and they'd be like, oh, fine, you know? So my friend starts bleeding like a period, right? And I think at the time, what was she, like 38, 39? She got 3 boys. She starts bleeding. It's pretty heavy, and she's like, wow. And she was she was visiting her family in Texas and decided, well, I'll deal with this once I get back and, you know, to my husband, and we'll deal with it then and stuff. You know, it's definitely something wrong. I'm bleeding like a pig here.
Yeah.
Really bleeding. Well, you never get in an airplane if you're bleeding kind of weird on your period ever. Even if you're bleeding normal on your period. When you get in an airplane, wow. But anyway, so she gets on an airplane, and turns out, and she had to fly to Asia to be back with her family.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So turns out she gets hauled off the plane in Japan, practically dead. And hospitalized there, and transfusions and everything else. Uterus taken out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so I had that. Probably, maybe she wouldn't have shared it, but it was like everyone in our expat community is like, "Oh, did you hear Lisa almost died?" You know. So I mean, and she was my friend, so we talked about it. But I'm like, "What happened?" And she goes, "Well, apparently this can happen. You know, in perimenopause, when your hormones start to change in perimenopause, your periods can get really heavy." And they can get so out of control that you can bleed to the point of anemia and real illness. And people will just be like, oh, I just don't feel, you know, go to your doctor. And for the most part, it's a quick fix. They'll give you birth control pills. It's basically a hormonal adjustment, and that'll fix it. But like for me, and thank goodness I had knowledge, awareness. Awareness is key. Awareness is key to anything, I think. But awareness was key for me, and this was here. I started bleeding like crazy. And I mean, like crazy. Let's get TMI here. Like, put in a tampon, it's soaked and done in seriously 7 minutes.
Jeez.
Really bad. To the point where I was dizzy, I couldn't remember stuff. I go to the doctor, I actually had anemia. Like I was just bleeding. It was like 45 days of bleeding.
Jeez.
But because I have a blood clotting disorder, I couldn't take those hormones. I could get because I had a DVT once. So she's like, wow, since you're done having kids and all that kind of stuff, it's not like the automatic response, but I'm done having kids, I'm all this stuff. So I went and had a hysterectomy. They left the ovaries and all that, so
you get your hormones.
But just the uterus came out. But again, just like the miscarriages, once it happened, I start telling everybody about it because that's what I do, and it's happened to tons of people. So it's super. And my gynecologist, and Anne Marie Spooner in Leesburg, she's amazing. It takes like 4 months to get into her, but once you're her patient,
then that's good to know, because I need a doctor, and I see people posting on like the different Facebook groups, hey, send me to your gynecologist or whatever. So
Dr. Anne Marie Spooner, I can't do anything, she's a great doctor. But she also kind of specializes in perimenopause and menopause, and she's really great about that. But so she sent me to another doctor who is pro at the surgeon part of it. So they did like the in-camera kind of removal. So I did like 3 holes and that was it. And now I get to walk through Target and look at the tampons all smudged. I don't need you anymore.
I'm waiting for that day.
So it's actually really nice. But when you're starting to get around 40, if you start having a heavy period, you could be bleeding out. And you got to tell somebody.
I'll have to remember that because I'm on my side of 40.
Yeah.
So,
but can you believe you've never heard about it?
No, I hadn't.
It's like once you get to the baby making age, and then you've never heard about miscarriages until you have one. It's one of those things. So another.
Now you all know.
Yeah, another big thing, And now I'm gonna start like interviewing all these old women and like, so what else did they not told us?
Well, my mom.
Does your vag fall out? I mean, like. What else is in the future that we still don't know about?
On the same topic, my mom, I can't remember, it was several years ago, probably 8 years ago now, that she had to have her uterus removed. Still has her ovaries, had the uterus taken out, because where we lived and where she worked was probably about a 45-minute drive. And this 45-minute drive, she almost was like, thought she was bleeding to death because of the amount of blood from point A to point B.
So the same thing happened to her?
Almost. What it was, a fibroid tumor the size of a grapefruit. Okay, for those of you, I only just realized how small my uterus actually is. Probably not now because I've had 3 kids, but...
Yeah, now it's like a saggy bag. But...
Now, yeah. But like
I got lots of saggy bags.
And your ovaries, about this big. Okay, not very big, very small, like walnut size, let's say.
Yeah.
On her uterus had a tumor the size of a grapefruit, which was causing her to bleed that heavily. So again, there's so many reasons why these things could be happening to you. Now, fibroids run in the family, they're all benign, they're just like bothersome, whatever, but that's what was happening to her, and she ended up, when she had the tumor removed, had her uterus removed as well, and that was about 8 years ago now. So again, if you have to think to yourself, something's just not right, go to the doctor.
Yeah. And be an advocate for yourself.
Yes. Don't let somebody just tell you.
Because a lot of doctors will just go, you're fine. Mm-hmm. Send you home with a clap or something.
Yeah, and or a prescription.
Yeah.
Because that's what else are they going to do? So.
Yeah. I just like saying the clap. I know nobody else. I'm such an idiot. I used to not even realize that the clap is specifically a venereal disease.
Yeah.
I used to think it was like, the plague or something. So one time I was joking with my kids and I'm like, what, you got the clap? Because one of them had a fever and my husband's like, do you know what the clap is? I'm like, oh, it's just that? I thought it was like everything bad.
All encompassing. No, that's amazing.
Learn a new thing every day.
I might have to use that.
Not to your kids, I learned.
No.
You're like, Mom used to ask if we had venereal disease.
Well, it's funny too because on this topic, off the topic, my mom just thinks that us kids are really funnier than I think we actually are. You've heard. I'm gonna whisper a term to you. You've heard the term.
Who? No.
Okay, so I'm embarrassed. I was gonna say it. A fupa.
I've never heard it.
Okay, it's the stomach. When the stomach isn't large, but another saggy bag, and it hangs down this way. Mm-hmm. That's what that's
fupa?
called. Yes, and that skin is called.
Oh, a fupa?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
It's. Yeah. So my mom thought I made that word up. Okay, now this was a very long time
F-U-P-A.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my mom thinks we're making this word up, my brother and I, who just happened, he's 10 years younger than I am. We're all at Walmart in the South.
Wait, you're 10?
No, my brother's 10 years younger than me.
How old were you?
This was a couple years ago, so I was probably like 25.
I thought you were saying like when I was 12 I made up this fupa word. I'm like, how did you even?
No, but my mom's going, look at the fupa on that one, and look at it on that one, thinking that nobody else, she was the only one who knew what this word meant, so we had to usher poor Rose out of Walmart and explain to her that this is something that people know what this is. Please stop hollering it at.
Well, that's one thing actually when I first, okay, one more off topic and then we're like blah, 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 but we like talking. When I was when I first had my sister-in-law, luckily, that's why there are no mirrors in the birthing room.
They tried to give me a mirror for my first one.
Like a full length?
Yes, and they're like, we're just gonna put it here between my legs. I said, get out.
Well, my sister-in-law was like, once you have the baby, your stomach will actually like just kind of deflate and hang over. She's like, don't freak. The skin like comes back up and shrinks, and thank God she told me that, or I would have freaked.
No.
I would have been like, I am totally disfigured.
It's the weirdest, like, because it is just like so much extra skin that was so taut for so long. It's kind of just like, when you have a balloon and you let the air out and
it does come back, ladies. I actually went back to flat stomach after that. Not now because life, but back then.
Well, I did, but also I am a personal trainer, and I found exercise about 8 years ago, so that helped me a lot too. So
yeah, and that's on my to-do list, finding exercise again.
Well, now we know each other.
Yeah.
So all right, awesome. This was hilarious at the end. Very funny. Cracked up for sure. And I appreciate all of your knowledge and
it was all personal knowledge. I'm not an expert.
Yes, not a doctor. And I look forward to speaking with you some more.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you.
It was really good to talk.